Welcome to the show. Welcome to your Thought Life podcast. I am your host, Michael Anderson. On this podcast, we help people overcome mindset challenges to fast track personal and professional success. If you haven't already, do consider subscribing to the podcast. We have episodes that are released every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. For each of you who have had an opportunity to leave us a rating and a review, thank you so much. And for each of you who return week after week to enjoy the content and to participate online in our forums, thank you so much for your participation. The show wouldn't be what it is without you. We're, continu- we're continuing our Mindset Insights from Trailblazing Women's series, and we are so super duper excited to have Larci Robinson on the show. Larci, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me here.
This will be the first time Larci hears this as well as you, audience. But it was maybe a year ago or so, she and I had the opportunity to work together on a panel. And I had not known her or worked with her on any projects before. And I was just literally like amazed and semi awestruck because this whole group of people came in with her. I'm like, oh my gosh, does she have an entourage? What's going on here? And turns out they're just friends of hers. We get to the panel, we start fielding the questions, and I'm like, man, she is like giving some really good answers. I got to really up my game. And I mean to tell you and share with you in earnest that I feel like when you and I were on that panel, I really needed to bring my best because some of the stuff that you were saying was like, oh man, that's really deep and good and practical. That's one piece. The other part is what I learned in her introduction is that both of us are veterans. She was in the Navy, I was in the Army. And both of us had the same military occupational specialty. We're both military intelligence analysts. And I said to myself, wouldn't it be awesome if I could get her on the show? And audience, here she is to be on the show and to share out of all of her experiences some nuggets with us around mindset, her military career. She's a practitioner. She's over a couple of environments, over a couple of different boards. She's all over the place doing good in the community. Again, Larci, thank you so much for taking some time to talk with us today.
Thank you so much. That was such a warm invite to this conversation, so I appreciate it.
Did you know we both had the same MOS?
I don't think I did.
I
No.
knew that was gonna get you. I told you I was gonna get you.
What did not? That's awesome.
I think so
So,
too.
and did that catch your eye at all behind me?
It did. Most certainly it did. Yeah. For each of you who will see snippets of this on social media for promotion, she's showing me her wall of honor where she has all of her awards and such, and they are numerous.
Just my
They are
favorite.
numerous. That's cool. That's cool. So when I went into the military way back in the day, there was, as a part of basic training, I feel like, we had drill sergeants, and these drill sergeants, their responsibility was to take us from these civilians who didn't have any discipline, who didn't know what collaboration was, who didn't know what teamwork was, and to take of varying ages, individuals from all sort of walks of life and indoctrinate them, right, in the way that the service would deem them usable for service. And I remember going through numerous drills and doing them repetitively over and over until we perfected them. And out of that were some lessons learned, principally around mindset. Larcy, I wonder during the time that you served, how do you feel that the military was instrumental in helping you develop the mindset that you have today?
Definitely, you already mentioned it, collaboration was a big thing, and because 'cause you're doing something with a team, you have a purpose and a mission, so it kinda gave you some drive to want to do that. Somebody asked me very recently what was, probably the worst job, but the most rewarding that you've ever done, and I had to say it was being a United States sailor because there's tons of things that I really did not want to do,
Yes, indeed.
but I
Yes, indeed.
still did it. I'm still proud to say I did it, and if I we could talk all day, but yes, I've done many things that I thought to myself, "They didn't train me to do this, but here I am." You know what, though? That's the easiest, least stressful thing to do is sweep the deck. It
Yeah,
is okay. There
yeah.
is a purpose behind it, and we have a mission and to do, and yes, learning to understand that everybody has a role, everybody has a part, and we all
Mhm.
do those things together was something that kind of shifted my definitely my mindset of doing a job and having a purpose and a mission. So that's one of the number one things that I think about when I take new roles or when I'm working for a company. And at first, leaving the military and moving into corporate America was tough for
Yeah,
me. I
me too.
really did. I needed to feel that active service, I guess, still.
Yeah.
The active service was it definitely changed the way that I thought about what I wanted to do for the rest of my career. So it did that. Obviously, it helped me in many ways: teamwork, leadership, problem solving with a team, obviously, ethics, integrity. They honor courage and commitment is ingrained into a sailor from day one and continuously improving, learning new things. And I don't know, there's a lot of things that I learned from the military that I brought into my career after that. But I think the biggest thing is the resilience and mentally tough from all of the things they throw at you. It's not the end of the world. You just got to do better next time. If they give you bad feedback or something doesn't go right, you just grab your team and keep going. But yeah, I don't know. That that covers most of the things that I feel like made me who I am out coming out of the military.
When you departed when you departed from armed service and you stepped over into the civilian world, as we used to say, and you became a corporate citizen, did you have moments where the structure that you had become so accustomed to, having a hard left boundary, having a hard right boundary, and playing within that space and only that space, when that got removed, did that have any impact on you and how you did life?
Yes. Mostly about how I saw others, though.
Ah, okay.
Yes.
Talk about that a little bit.
Because you have to, I had to understand that it's not that serious. You don't need to drive 90 miles an hour to get to work, and you shouldn't encourage people to do that to make sure you're
That's
living.
okay.
Understanding that life is something that's going on and it doesn't I had a hard time going, "Oh, I have to be there. You're supposed to be there at 8." And people had dropped children off at school and that sort of thing. Like, I had worked my whole military life around or my career and things around my family and
Sure.
making sure they were good in the guidelines that you just said, like, "Here's the
Uh-huh,
boundaries." Like, you
uh-huh,
have to make
uh-huh.
this work, and if you can't, really seen as not doing your job, right?
Yeah,
And I had to understand that outside of that, it wasn't like that. And that we nothing horrible is going to happen if this person is a couple minutes late because they got stuck in traffic. Now, granted, of course, you want to make sure you're leaving ahead time, but sometimes there's people stuck out. This happened to me once and I was frantic, I think driving into work and traffic got stuck because of an accident and there was no moving. I'm going to be late. I'm always early, but
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
going to be
yeah.
late. And it took me a while to like for my leadership to be like, "It is okay. This is unavoidable. You're good." That's you need to throw that out. I had another military mentor tell me, don't have to do that. Just relax. It's okay. As long as you tell someone that you're running late, it's not that big of a deal anymore, right? Whereas that was a shift. The other thing is processes, procedures. You have to yeah, I think initially I viewed people as one, they weren't in my boundary driven life of being on time all the time,
Right.
100% time,
Yeah.
understanding there's probably a reason for it. I don't need to know all of that, but you know what I mean? You have to sit back and go, you know what? I bet their son was sick or they had an appointment. You can't automatically assume that they're just not
That's
good
right. That's right.
employee. That that was something I had to really like to do. And that's such a seems like such an awful, like I was such an awful person. But no, I just didn't know. I didn't understand how it would be. I thought it was like that everywhere, like
Yeah.
it must be here. And I didn't know. So that was an adjustment. Processes, procedures, when they don't exist, I just make my own.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, ah, why are you doing it that way? I was like, I couldn't figure out how else to do it. There's no documentation, so I'm making some. This is the way I'm doing it. Is there a better way? Please tell me.
All of those things just so resonate with me. I feel like you've taken me out of the present and transported or teleported me back to when I had just exited the armed services just before Y2K. And gosh, I mean, some of the things you said, I experienced firsthand.
Yeah.
I remember my first job out was with Raytheon. So they had a lot of structure and I had a TSSCI. So I got to work in their black cell and it was very regulated. It had left and right boundaries, policies, procedures, standards. I'm like, oh yeah, great. This is going to be wonderful. But I only was there for 3 months. And then I took a regular civilian job where it was just totally like moosey goosey. It's like none of that boundary schmoundary stuff. Hey, you come in when you want to come in, you just do
Oh,
your
wow.
thing, you leave when you want to leave. You want to have a beer at lunch, have beer at lunch. I'm just like, what in the world have I got myself into here?
Quite a shock, right?
Yeah, you
I
talk
was
about culture shock, and some
yeah,
older guys sat me down and they were like, "Hey, we just want you to know, Mike, that this is probably not gonna feel like the army, so get used to it."
yeah. I was lucky I got to transition from military to contractor roles, GDIT, Booz Allen Hamilton. I
Yeah,
even worked at Raytheon as well. But
that's
so I got to ease that out a bit, but I worked with Army, mostly Army first out of the military, and they
sweet.
helped me, thankfully. Yes, I was the only Navy person on our team of mostly retired sergeant majors. So they kinda took me in and showed me the ways and
Yeah,
guided me. I still had those guardrails because that's what we all expect them, and if they're not there, we create them to make
that's right.
sure that we're all working in the same page. But yeah, I'm glad that I got to do that. It was Raytheon to Pepsi was my change of from that having boundaries to Pepsi with Windows. I always like to say, I was like, that was my first job with Windows.
Yeah,
So
it's
it's kind
isn't
of
one the nice when you can see outside during the day, you know, 'cause
yeah,
we're accustomed to working in secret compartment information facilities and pretty much have to almost get out of your clothes just to get in, and then there is no to your point, no windows. I
right.
wanna go back to something you said earlier, though, that really caught my attention. You mentioned problem solving in the context of military service and mindset. Because what I find with a lot of veterans, Larcy, is that they just have a different level of tenacity. They don't give up as easy or at all. Whereas sometimes for others who may not have had the benefit of being in the armed services, they seem to be a little more prone to just throwing in the towel and saying the heck with it. Do you attribute the mindset that I'm pretty sure helped to shape this version of you to the armed services and some of those lessons that you learned there, or were you sort of already like that and they just enhanced it?
I think they definitely shaped it. I mean, I joined when I was 20. I don't know that I had great problems skills at 20. I had a problem. I solved it by joining the military. I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. So it did. I guess I had some sense to me. I think a lot of it too is that they did mold me is the whole teamwork and thinking past the first problem and making sure that one problem that you're solving doesn't create other ones. So
Yeah.
that's that second, third order effect that I think that I took away from that when it comes to problem solving and integrating risk into those things too. Like thinking back, I'm like, I've been giving some risk analysis on things like moving equipment from one side of the ship to another. There are things to go take into account for that. And the problem that's pretty a project management type approach that
It
we
is,
do with
very much
every
so.
I
Yeah.
mean, if you're having to move past another operation going on, or if there's another project and we call them working parties or whatever, depending on what the project is, where we pull in lots of people. What's the weather like? What's the schedules of the people in working in it? Like all of those things, I learned a lot to think past just that problem. There you can create problems from the one you're trying to solve, and make sure you take those into account. And that goes into managing people, saying, "Hey, what are your strengths? Are you even going to be able to do this project? What what's your part gonna be if you're not? You might have your part might just be to learn how to do the new thing because you aren't good for this. The risk would be too high to have you take this part on. How about you shadow this other person? I mean, there's
Mhm.
lots of things that I think I got from being in the military when it came to problem solving. So I definitely didn't have that before.
Okay. So on 2 accounts, we're 2 out of 2. Armed Services has assisted with mindset. They've assisted with problem solving. You just said something else that I'm gonna come back to. Before we deal with risks, I wanna ask you about continuous improvement. So, in the mindset space, we have 2 different views or vantage points. We have the fixed mindset that says, "Hey, this is what I've got. This is my plight. These are my cards. This is all that I'm going to be able to work with in life." And then we have the growth mindset that's on the continuous improvement side of the house that says, you know what? There's a lot of stuff out there on the internet. The internet's free, and I can just go and learn and absorb and change and gain skill sets and gain understanding. I don't have to be the way I am today. I can change. And I know, being an Army guy, that is synonymous across all branches, continuous improvement. I wonder though if when you became a civilian and you saw that some orgs, some teams weren't doing that, did you have a propensity to try to encourage others to be that way, to start doing things like that, to start thinking like that? Because I know for a fact it did not go away.
Correct. For sure. I want to streamline everything. And how do we do that? It means you got to learn how to do something faster, do something with less resources, basically be resourceful. And sometimes that means going to learn something new. And even if it's not to solve a problem, I just want to learn something new. Technology is moving so fast.
And
If you think that I am only utilizing the skills that I took from the Navy, I wouldn't be here today for sure if I stopped right there. I definitely had to pick up a book, go look on YouTube, listen to listen to panels, see what other people's perspectives are on things. So continuous learning and goals to reach. I'm I'm continuously trying to get certifications. I am probably the worst test taker, but I'm getting better. I just got to keep practicing. But shifting the way that you look at that and knowing that no, I'm not a failure. I just needed to try again. I'm studying for the CISSP. Currently, it's my year's goal. I'm halfway through and I'm not there yet. So I'm kind of kicking myself a little bit. Need to move this along. But yeah, I definitely got that because it was built into our career. Okay, you have to meet these standards, meet these requirements to move on to the next rank. And how do you do that? They tell you exactly. Here's the
Yeah,
path.
got
Here's the
blue.
things you gotta do. Yep. Here's what you have to do. That is one thing that I do think is lacking in the civilian corporation for the most part, because
Mhm.
I think the what's really provided is that you show up every day, you do what's asked of you, eventually you'll get promoted. I don't really
Mhm.
like that as an approach because that makes people stagnant.
It
They're not
does.
reaching for something. There's no clear path of what gets them to the next level. What do they need to do? What makes them a well-rounded individual for the business? Those things are kind of missing. I ask those questions of managers. What do I got to do next? Here's what I've done. Is there something I need to do to make me better here in my networking, whatever it is, to mentors, to managers? I think that is one thing that is lacking a bit in most corporate environments. There's not a clear path or goals for each individual to reach. And they usually ask, "What are your goals?" Well, my goal is to get promoted. What is it? What do I need to do to make that happen?
What I
If
need to
that's what
do.
it,
Yes.
yeah.
I tend to agree with you vehemently on that note. There are so many people that I work with who are trying to figure that out because it has not been laid out for them. There's no college course on this. There's no block of instruction as we're accustomed to getting that says, hey, do these 7 things and you'll be in a good position to move up the ranks. So they have to figure it out. And I totally agree that when you have to figure it out and let's just say you're a young person and you don't have a lot of tenure, that seems like a really big undertaking and it can be incredibly discouraging. So I definitely agree with you. One would one would need a tremendous amount of resilience. And you made mention of this a couple of moments ago. When you find yourself presented with situations, Larcy, that when you woke up, you didn't know you were going to deal with that situation. And it creates for you the need to exercise resilience. Like talk about what's going on in your head when you have to put on resilience, when you have to enable, as we say in tech space, resilience.
Remind myself that everything is temporary. Everything
Love it.
is temporary. This problem
Love
is
it.
temporary. Just take a deep breath, think through what needs to be solved, and it's going to be okay. But most of it is it's temporary. What's the Thomas said? He failed like hundreds of times, right? Before he got to the light bulb. I'm we are all are going to make mistakes or fail at some things, or something's going to get thrown at them that they weren't expecting, as you said. And you're going to have to get through it, whether it's I didn't get a promotion or I didn't pass that exam or who knows. There is an incident that I couldn't figure out all the details. I had to phone a friend. It's okay. It is gonna be okay. It's temporary, and you have people around you to help you, and if you don't, you should probably get some of those people. Find those people that can help you, know what their strengths are, let them know what yours are so you can help them. But I always want to remind myself this is only temporary. It's going to be okay. I think that's it because we've gone through some major crises as adults that have been way worse than anything that I've dealt with recently as far as professionally, that it's okay. It's going to be okay.
So I know that because I see you online, we're in each other's feeds, and I see you at organizational events leading women. I see you doing other things in the community to sort of anchor younger women and show them the way, if you will. I would imagine that from time to time, you come across women who perhaps may have been overlooked. You come across women that might not have the same level of certainty in their capability in what they have to offer. I would imagine you come across ladies that just aren't sure what their next steps ought to be. And as a mentor, as a coach to them, having the desire and the need, right, to bring them up to where you are, what are some of the things that you're doing? What are some of the things you're sharing? What are some of the coaching tactics that you're using to help people grow and develop a more positive mindset?
Mostly, I'm connecting them with other like-minded people, other like-minded
Love it.
women to help. I'm trying to help them realize that they belong in the space. Yes, you are good enough. Not everyone has to be super technical. You can still learn. You still have time to learn. There's a place for you t- to fit in what you're passionate about, even. But you do have to figure out, and that's why usually if they're not finding that job, they don't know where to go. Where do you want to work? And they're like, anywhere. No, you don't want to work anywhere. I know that's not true.
That's good.
Let's
I
really,
love it.
yeah, let's really think about something you're passionate about, something you care about. Heck, think about your favorite brand out there that you have used since you were a kid or whatever that is, and go see what they have, see what they're doing. I mean, find some way to focus because we were talking about the internet is wide and long and it is going to be movement all the time. Attackers are looking for every corner of the earth to steal money and steal your information from. So everybody needs you, right? Everybody needs us. Everybody needs to implement security stuff. How can you go and support them? And what kind of role do you want? And I bring them into my group to expose them to all the many opportunities of roles because typically every single meeting that I have everybody get up and say what their role is, where they work, so they can see there no one has the same job title. Nobody does the same thing. Large organizations have more narrow scopes of work. Smaller organizations have very broad scopes of work. What is it? What type of thing does that look like? What's a day look like for that person? Go ask them. Like I have them get up and
Yes.
say what their role is. That way I want, and I have to tell them I say making, I'm asking you to get up to tell your role because there's somebody across the room that wants to talk to you. And they might miss you if
Yeah.
they don't know who you are. So a lot of it is getting connected with someone that, especially if they're new, that is already doing the job or even is just passionate about it. I already know about this job. I think it's really going to be right up my alley. How are you working to get there? What are you studying? What YouTuber are you following? What podcasts are you following? Whatever about learning this particular role in cybersecurity, those types of things, or in technology, it doesn't matter. But most of the time, I find great joy for myself in connecting the women with someone that can help them through that, figuring out what they want to do, what they want to be, the opportunities. And then I too remind people that are already in their roles that might not be happy about it. They don't like what they're doing every day. There are other opportunities probably in the current organization you work in. Go talk to those people, see what they need. Maybe there's a different role for you, and it
Mhm.
opens up one for someone else. There's lots of opportunities out there, not necessarily to hop around from job to job, but within organizations that you're happy to be in. I'm before you go and find another spot that you're going to have to try to figure out if that's the right fit either. That part is tough, but I really encourage people to find the network to help support them and get them into those spots that they'll be happy in and have someone to advocate for them and push them along to say, here's what you need to learn. Here's what, let me connect you with someone that will mentor you or whatever. So that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to just, I guess, boost their confidence in doing these jobs because they seem a bit daunting when you read a job description at
Yes,
first.
they do.
And then when you actually get into it and realize what it is, it's not what you thought it was.
It sure is
You know?
sometimes. I want to ask you about goal setting. Yeah. Because I just so happen to know that for us, it's just what we always have done. I mean, from the earliest stage of my military career until my departure, there was always a goal, right? I always knew where I was going, right? So I kind of equate that to vision. I knew some of the underlying milestones that I wanted to achieve. That's more so along my short term goals. So we have always had that for us. When you departed from the armed services and you had to do that for yourself, did you find that difficult? Do you find it difficult now? Or did you do as you've already noted? I don't have anybody telling me I need these, so I'll just make some for myself.
Yeah. I do have a little bit of trouble with it. I know what I'm supposed to do. I do. I have these over the moon goals, right?
That's
How do you
good.
how you want those, but you also I realize too, and I'm not good at this, but you need to set up a timeline of how do you reach that? Not to say that you can't wait till the last minute and do it. You could in some cases, but it's your own fault if you don't make it on time. By planning those things out, how do you get there? I want to run a half marathon in a couple months. How do I get there? You have to build up. I can't just say I'm going to do this and go do
No,
it the day
no.
before. You could, but you're going to regret it later.
Yes, indeed. That's a
And
fact.
maybe you'll get through it, right? But setting yourself up and putting a timeline in place is definitely important. And those an annual review of your activity is not it. It's not the right. You want to do that a little bit cut up into pieces. Depends on what your goal is, right?
Yes,
If it really only takes a month, then you probably should cut some pieces into weeks. If it takes a week, you want to cut those down to days, whatever it is. And which is good. Start small because it's daunting. The mountain is really tall. If you just say, I'm going to get here without the path to there, I guess.
that's good. So you said start small, make sure that you're checking in. So we call that accountability. Make sure you've got some accountability established and know from that bigger task that you got to break it into smaller tasks and then take those smaller tasks, be accountable and deliver on them. I love that.
Correct.
That is a recipe that is repeatable that anyone can do with just a little bit of practice with a little of discipline. And
Disciplined, tough part, right?
that can be tough, yes.
Easy to
So,
create. Got to implement the discipline to actually carry it out.
yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So, I've learned today that you take pleasure and find joy in connecting people with other people.
Right.
As a service member, I never once went to a networking function, yet there was a level of collaboration that was just inherent to being an army guy or being an army gal. It just sort of went with the territory,
Well,
as they say. When you're in that mindset of, okay, they're looking to me, I need to get them brokered with the right resource that can help them move from where they are to where they want to go. In some cases, networking is the way to do that. Did you get the networking from the armed services? Did you develop that skill set afterward? And what are
yeah,
you doing today to sort of hone it? Because that is a very important skill set.
I did not have it because it was built in. Your network was built in. When you
Yeah,
move to a new
yeah,
place, someone
yeah,
to greet you and tell you you're about your new home and your new place. You have someone, a mentor right away from the day your
yeah,
family and you show up.
yes.
You're assigned someone to help you. So, no, I did not have that at all. So, getting out of the military and actually having to go and find roles and find opportunities and figure out what's even a possibility. I did some searching, internet searching, and found other veteran groups. I found other resources. There's lots of resources out there to help you practice interviewing skills, your resume,
Yeah.
that sort of stuff. They'd send us through a TAP program, the transitional program, which now I think they're killing it now. It's awesome. Whatever they're doing now, they've got this skill bridge thing.
Yeah.
I did not have that. I had a week in a classroom and really don't think I really got much of it. I mean, I even created a LinkedIn during TAP class and it was with my Navy email. So that's how helpful that was
Yeah.
because I
Yeah.
couldn't access it after I left. And they just
I
didn't.
just thought about that. Yeah, like, how you gonna access that? Yeah.
So there is another profile on LinkedIn from when I created it when I was in the Navy. So, so it's there. There are two Larcys out there, and yes, I did create it, which is pretty funny. I've tried to get it removed, and that's a difficult task because
Yes,
it's.
it is.
So yeah, I did not. I had to be. I was motivated though to go and find a job, and I had a realization that I'm going to have to go everywhere and meet everyone and talk to everyone because that seemed to be the best course of action rather than just throwing my resume out. I was very lucky in this probably the last 15 years. I think I've gotten a job 2 times from a call for my resume, 2 times
Mm,
out of
mm.
hundreds and hundreds of applications. Otherwise, I was pinging a recruiter or pinging a hiring manager or going to a networking place or a job fair or a meetup or whatever. Because a lot of this, if you combine it and try to not think of it so like I have to go and do this thing. Go make new friends. It's fun to make new friends typically. But your objective is to one, get better at those things because it's
Yes.
super
Yeah.
awkward if you don't know people there. And I definitely coming into the DFW area didn't know anyone. So I seeked out meetup.com even to go and find friends and see what's going on in the world after leaving South Korea. I left South Korea. I was already out of the military, but still am working with
Mhm.
the government. So it was still the transition here was by far the hardest because I didn't have a built in network anymore. Like, no one greeted me at the airport and said, "Hey, let me help you. Let me get you
Yeah.
checked in."
That's just family. You're just simply not getting that anymore.
Exactly. So as in that regard, I hit the ground running as and just had to do it. I didn't want to wait around for someone to email me. And I got up and did but the resources, looking for a women of security group even. That was later, maybe a year or two, realizing that the network here in cybersecurity, the community is really great. It really is. There's lots of opportunities for
Yes.
everyone. For now, it's even probably doubled since I started getting involved in the cybersecurity community. We've got Women of Security, there's WESIS, there's EWF. These are all for women. When I first started looking for them, I only found one and it was
Yeah.
more executive base. I mean, that's why I ended up creating the Women of Security group is because I thought that there needed to be another place for us to go if we
Yes.
weren't comfortable at the Dallas Hackers Association. They love us there, but it is 99 to 1 sometimes there as far as women in that space and it's kind of scary for people that don't know what to expect and I wanted to solve that. I wanted to create a group to meet more women to take with me to that meetup and that was how I was solving that is really just creating my own path on making new friends and getting more women to sit next to me at work.
Are you would you classify yourself so when I see you out, you look like a social butterfly, but you could be like me, you could just be turning that on. Are you an introvert or an extrovert?
I think I have both because I have a battery and my battery does shut down. My
Okay.
social battery shuts down.
Okay.
I go until I can't and then you might not hear from me for a bit. And that's why. It's I'm just tired.
Okay.
But yes,
I got
I am pretty extroverted. But new settings are always tough, but I've learned to just it's a practice, just practice.
yeah. So we didn't get an opportunity to circle back to the risk management piece. We'll have to do that in a different segment. I want to ask you one final question. Going to be numerous people who will view this particular podcast, especially day one, but then it'll live on as a record for quite some time. And they're going to be looking to this series to really understand what can I glean from this series, from these trailblazing women that will help me to fast track my personal and professional success. If you could just give some nuggets, some gems, maybe even a summary of some of the key points that would help a person leapfrog from where they are to where they want to be, what would those be, Larcy?
I think is one, if that's the fast track in your career, ask what do I need to do from your leadership? Number one. Number two, I think if outside of that is grow your network, get out of your comfort zone and never ever say no to an opportunity that's presented for you, whether it's in your organization or outside, because you just never know. This might be your dream job that you're saying, no, I'm happy where I'm at. You haven't even heard about the job yet. How do you know? How do you know that you gotta be happier somewhere else? Like always, that was given to me from my very first. He was military, but my first job is welcome to the team and always keep your resume up to date and make sure you're marketable for any future opportunities that come your way. I was shocked but that was the guidance from him to say, "You are this guy. You've got a ton of opportunities in the future. I spent 10 years in. I have a whole career still ahead of me." Yeah. So be open to new opportunities. When I approach with even new projects at companies, I'm very grateful that I was able to help with different things and see different parts of the business.
Mm,
And I wanted to know what they were doing because what if there was a day I don't want to do this job anymore? What else is there? How can I add value? What can I do? Those types of things I think are being motivated to just do your job, but also open to learn a new one.
mm,
But those are some things that I, I tend to think have been very helpful in getting me in places and understanding what everyone's part is, right? If you don't ever know what that other team is actually doing and you just badmouth them, why do they take so long to do that thing?
yeah.
If you
Yeah.
go over and see what they're dealing with and understand, then
Right.
you'll understand. And maybe you could help them to get something done that they're struggling with. You never know.
That's right. That's right. It's good. I I had I had feelings that because in other arenas we've always gelled. I did not know we would gel like this. This has been one heck of a conversation. You have shared a tremendous amount of nuggets and gems with us. And we want to again thank you so much for your time and for spending it here with us to share out of the treasures of all that you have come across, learned, observed, or done. Some of this fantastic information. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Larcy.
Thank you. I appreciate the conversation a lot.
We'll most certainly be inviting you back. But unfortunately, that does conclude this episode. We appreciate your time and your attention. And I want to remind you that you are enough, you can do it, and you are uniquely equipped to realize your goals. And until next time, take care and be safe.